Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Nori, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Okay. While everyone tunes in one by one, good evening all. Good to see you, all, Curtis. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and family. Good to see you, all, Ian. How you doing? I also still haven't left my business partner's house. We've been working until around essentially 5 a.m. We've been working. This is when I essentially got to sleep, and then woke up essentially and started working all over again. Um, yeah, it's been a long night, long day as well. Scott, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? But I still don't want to miss out on doing the live show. Hello, brother Miles. T, good to see you. How you doing? After the live show, I have a lot of work to do for Queen Move as well. Now, while everyone tunes in for the first part of the live show, while everyone tunes in essentially for the first part of the live show, let's do the intro disclaimer and essentially what's happening around the world. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you watch this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Mouse. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much vital information you should know about regarding the world completely transforming into digital space. We also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Now, this is episode 421 of the CMF live show that everybody's watching right now. I am extremely exhausted, I'll be very honest, but I didn't want to miss out on doing the live show. After the live show, I have a lot of work to do for Queen Move as well. Now, on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about essentially Trump's speech. His massive speech regarding the pharmaceutical sector, which is good news for humanity, especially good news for the United States of America, and not so much of a good news for pharmaceutical stocks, but they don't really impact the crypto market space, which is good for us. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding some prediction news of how essentially the stablecoin market space is going to be growing moving forward. We're also going to be talking about some other perspective news regarding Bitcoin's price point going forward as well. Some partnership announcements to go through, some collaborations that the crypto sector we're also going to go through as well. CFTC news we're going to go through on tonight's live. Fed news we're going to go through on tonight's live. Some data essentially everybody should know about. And obviously Ripple news to go through on tonight's live as well. Just want to say thank you so much to everybody who has already smashed the retweet button and the like button of this live show right now. If you haven't seen my members and you're watching this on X, smash the like button, smash the retweet buttons. I am exhausted, but I'm still doing this live show for everyone. Also, if you watch this on YouTube, drop a like. If you already haven't, drop a like. If you have, thank you so much. And also put a comment outside the live as well. Before we go through the first news, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we're at, and then we'll go straight into the first news. So where we were at inside the comment section, we were at. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing, boss? I'm doing great. Carlos, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles, and all the CMF. JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Hello, Miles, the CMF. Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. How you doing today? I'm doing great, artistic. Good to see you. How you doing? Just slightly exhausted, but I'm good. Your dedication is outstanding, Miles. Thank you, Ian, for the kind words. Scott, good to see you. How you doing? Morning, Miles, the CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, Shelly? Hi, Miles, the CMF. Solomon, good to see you. How you doing? You think we've hit the bottom yet, or is there more manipulation crashes coming? Good question. So regarding the Japanese rates, yesterday I gave out two outcomes. The first outcome I gave out was essentially the Japanese rates might wreck the crypto market space and essentially create a downward spiral for Bitcoin, but it'll be a quick bounce back up, is what I said for the first outcome, which is typically what would happen if the Japanese decided to introduce rates, which they did, 0.75. The second outcome I gave to everyone is everybody expects the market to go slumping downwards, but sometimes doesn't want to pay out, so it might just do a reversal on everybody, which is exactly what happened. The markets picked up. The markets picked up even further with Trump's speech, which was essentially the first news we're going to be covering on tonight's live. So we could have bottomed out. Essentially, this could be the last bottom. We might expect just one more, but if we don't, then this is pretty much the end of it. Evie Miles and CMF, good to see you. Or Jason, how you doing? Mickey, good to see you. Or how you doing? How you been? Hi there, Rusty. Good to see you. How you doing? Welcome to the CMF live show. Scott, let's go. Now, first news on tonight's live is regarding the surprising dynamics, essentially, in the world of pharmaceuticals and cryptocurrencies. And I'm not sure if I did the disclaimer of this live show at the beginning, if I did or did not, but the disclaimer of this live show is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Now, let's get into the first news. Surprising dynamics in the world of pharmaceuticals and cryptocurrencies. If anybody missed it, Trump did a massive speech regarding the pharmaceutical sector in terms of multitude of companies coming together to reduce prices on pharmaceutical products inside the United States, and countries that don't abide by the new essentially pricing of the United States, those to be pressured through tariffs, which means they had no choice. Donald Trump has recently praised the influence of tariffs on pharmaceutical firms, suggesting that these measures have forced companies to comply with the industry norms, while also essentially hinting at a pending major agreement. This strategy, alongside the forthcoming Supreme Court decisions in January, it holds the potential to positively impact inflation rates. If these policies continue to lead to lower rates, a further reduction in inflation is possible in the near future also. Coinbase's institutional essentially has also released a comprehensive report on the future of cryptocurrencies, alongside the pharmaceutical essentially speech Trump was making, with a focus on projections for the year 2026. The report acknowledges that the current challenges facing this year, such as the market volatility and the spotty liquidity situation, according to analysis, the 2025 will represent a pivotal period for cryptocurrencies as they enter a new era within the global market landscape. 2026 is all about institutional investments and high-profile investments. A significant prediction for 2026 is the anticipated advancements in global cryptocurrency regulations. Presently, in the US, has been essentially green-lighted the Genius for stablecoins, the Genius Act for stablecoins. However, all-encompassing legislations for the crypto sector is still pending. Expectations are to conclude draft regulations by the first quarter of 2026. In other words, we were expecting a Clarity Act to be coming out essentially by the end of the year, because we promised it that it would be done going to 2026. We would have a Clarity Act, which we discussed about it yesterday on yesterday's live show. However, a Clarity Act has been pushed to January still. Nonetheless, the potential delays are possible, with midterm elections possibly affecting this timeline. A scenario Donald Trump is essentially attempting to surrogate in terms of estimates from experts, suggesting that stablecoin market capitalization could also swell to $1.2 trillion by 2028. The ironic part is that JP Morgan today came out and said that he doesn't believe that stablecoin market space is going to be growing the same way essentially that crypto CEOs may have that perspective. So Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, coming out saying stablecoins will reach a tremendous amount of value in terms of market cap. Brad also said the same thing. Grayscale has mentioned some few things. Galaxy Digital, essentially CEO, has also said something similar. Ironically, JP Morgan comes out today and goes, no, we don't think it's going to grow that as fast as people essentially assume it's going to. I would just have to personally say, JP Morgan's slightly bitter. Bitcoin has reached a newfound position also among key assets. It yet essentially is beginning to show volatility in terms of essentially patterns akin to technology stocks. This whole year, Bitcoin has been following tech stocks up and down no matter where they go. The 90-day volatility of Bitcoin has dropped significantly from above 60% last year to roughly 35% this year, impacted by the introduction of ETFs and escalating institutional essentially involvements, with Bitcoin essentially manufacturing as an asset class. Market recognition came 2025. BlackRock's CEO identified Bitcoin as a fear-priced asset also. Is increasingly integrated into the investment portfolios, with financial institutions often essentially recommending an allocation of 1.1 to 5%, while most advise staying below essentially 3%. Bitcoin's integration in institutional portfolios appears promising. A major regulatory framework is expected in early 2026, which is the Clarity Act. Stablecoin market caps could hit $1.2 trillion by 2028. Bitcoin's decreased volatility aligns it more closely with tech stocks also, and future Fed rates could be influenced by Trump policies. Moving forward, essentially in 2026, these are things to expect. One, Q1 of 2026, we're expecting crypto regulations, especially the Clarity Act. Two, we're expecting essentially stablecoin market cap to reach somewhere around, not the first quarter, but in 2026, somewhere around $1.2 trillion. And three, we're expecting more rate cuts because whoever's going to replace Jerome Powell is going to be very close with Donald Trump and his administration, which means we should be expecting more rate cuts also in 2026. Positive surprises in inflation and liquidity improvements could also fuel notable growth in the crypto market space. Should Bitcoin evade a severe dip in the first quarter of 2026, which could come about if MicroStrategy essentially gets pressured, especially the whole situation regarding indices, which essentially MicroStrategy's, Michael Saylor says that, it's pointless going after MicroStrategy because it looks like it's going to be targeted by JP Morgan, other big players. They don't like the idea that MicroStrategy holds such a strong position in Bitcoin. It is quite obvious on that matter. Should Bitcoin evade a severe dip, if that scenario happens in the first quarter of 2026, it may overcome the established narrative of cynical crashes every 4 years also. Investors are waiting for a downturn, might re-engage, and leading to significant market shifts. So those are things essentially to expect in 2026. More regulations for the crypto sector, the stablecoin essentially sector to reach a tremendous value above $1.2 trillion market cap, and also more rate cuts because of Donald Trump and whoever he chooses to lead the Fed. Now, what also came up today, other than essentially Trump's massive speech regarding pharmaceutical products, which was great news for the United States, honestly, to be fairly honest, is that December US inflation expectations also came out and they surpassed predictions. The crypto markets essentially observed this scenario as well. Today, straight after Trump's speech, the market did continue picking up as well. Now, the final US 12-month inflation rate expectation for December was reported at 4.2%, slightly higher than essentially the anticipated 4.1%, according to essentially multiple finance firms. The higher than expected inflation figure could also influence future Federal Reserve decisions on interest rate management, impacting economic essentially forecasts and potentially affecting market sentiments globally. The Federal Reserve official John Williams noted that technical factors from November's data may have slightly essentially surpassed figures, resulting in figures lower than the actual levels, attributing to the 0.1 ppb drop to October to early November to data gaps. According to CoinMarketCap, Ethereum essentially is priced around $2,971.70 as of December 19th, essentially as December 19th, 2025. Its market cap stands at around $358.67 billion, dominating the 12.12% essentially of the market space still. However, in the domination of the crypto market space, Bitcoin obviously still leading, Ethereum leading in second, and BNB and XRP battling for third position. Also, a research team suggests that disinflation data could push the Federal Reserve towards interest rate hikes, and if inflation essentially persists, potentially prompting volatility in cryptocurrency markets. The Federal Reserve also official John Williams noted that technical factors from November's data may have set slightly surpassed figures, resulting in figures lower than essentially was expected. However, it came out brilliant for us. It came out very well for us inside the crypto space, and the markets continued climbing up. Interesting enough, today, I don't know if anybody saw it or not, the most intelligent man in the world coming out with multiple tweets about the XRP community today. One, saying that XRP is going to be overtaking Ethereum's market cap, which made ETH maxis incredibly angry regarding the smartest essentially person in the entire world coming out suggesting that Ethereum essentially is going to get smashed by XRP in terms of market cap. Also suggesting that all capital will be flowing essentially in XRP. That angered a lot of people inside the crypto space, but I don't understand why. Why is everybody so angered towards the idea XRP is actually that good in terms of it actually can handle essentially, being the backbone or one of the backbones of the financial sector? I don't understand this whole thing inside the crypto space where people just don't want to accept XRP is great as it is, because it is. Ripple has done so much to expand the XRP ledger by acquiring licensings that when somebody as the most intelligent man in the world comes out and tweets out that XRP is going to, be the number one leading asset inside the financial sector, it angers people for some reason. It shouldn't anger you. It should start to make you think maybe XRP is essentially capable of doing this. But anyways, let's go inside the comment section before we go through the next news on tonight's live. Let's go inside the comment section first. and then we'll go straight into the next news. But genuinely, what Donald Trump introduced today regarding pharmaceutical companies lowering their prices, brilliant news for American citizens, honestly. As much as some people might hate Donald Trump, you must admit that was a good idea regarding what Trump did. Now, let's go inside the conversation and see where we're at. Good evening, Miles. The time at the moment is with very high speed, I think, for every one of us. Keep going, don't give up. Let's go, Callie. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Davey, let's go. Good to see you. How you doing? Good day, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? Share the live, hit the like button. Facts. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles and CMF. Hope everyone is good. Ronnie, good to see you. How you doing? Mike, let's go. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Everyone share the live. Let's show Miles the same dedication that is showing us by doing the show in, day out, especially after a long day today. Let's go, Scott. Thank you so much for the kind words. Hi, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Let's go, Miles. Scott, let's go. Share the live. Hit the like button. Submit your questions to my facts. Now, Galaxy. Galaxy Digital predicts that stablecoins will overtake the ACH transaction volume in 2026. Stablecoins could essentially process more transaction volume than the US automated clearinghouse system in 2026, is the news prediction from Galaxy Digital. As regulatory clarity essentially and rising adoption happens and expands their usage according to new forecasts. Galaxy Research, the research arm of the asset company Galaxy Digital, pointed to the existing transaction data and regulatory developments to support this prediction, noting essentially that stablecoin transactions already eclipse major credit card networks such as Visa and now essentially process roughly half the transaction volume of the automated clearing house, which is incredible that the crypto space has come so far where we're overtaking payment systems, major payment systems, to be fairly honest, and getting par on par head to head with the clearinghouse payment system. Thad, the essentially vice president of research, said stablecoin supply has continued to grow at 30 to 40% compound annual growth rate, with transaction volumes essentially rising alongside issuance. Galaxy also cited the expected implementation of definitions under the Genius Act in early 2026 as a factor supporting further growth in stablecoin usage. The paper also brings predictions for the price of Bitcoin, writing that it could reach $250,000 by the end of 2027, according to Galaxy Digital. According to Galaxy Digital's research head, essentially firm wide research, Alex, also 2026 is too chaotic to predict, though Bitcoin making new all-time highs in 2026 is still possible, according to Galaxy Digital. And according to data from essentially DeFi Llama, the stablecoin market cap currently stands at about $309 billion, while USDT and US essentially DC continue to dominate the growing space of stablecoins. However, RLUSD is clamping down in that sector. Now, moving on, essentially from predictions from Galaxy Digital and some data from DeFi Llama in terms of where Bitcoin is going to be in 2027, and what's going to be happening in 2026, and how far stablecoins are going to be growing, to something similar to that line, but this prediction is coming from Citibank. So, Citi predicts that Bitcoin reaches $143,000 in 12 months. Citi has today came out reportedly forecasting Bitcoin reaching $143,000 over the next year due to increased adoption and relaxed regulations as we go into 2026, as highlighted by the retainers report that came out today. The forecast signals potential bullish momentum in the crypto market space, though lacks confirmation from official sources or significant market reactions thus so far. Citi projects that Bitcoin to reach $143,000 in the next 12 months, citing increased adoption and favorable regulatory adjustments in that scenario. The forecast is significant for investors and the crypto market space, highlighting anticipated essentially growth driven by the institutional sector rapidly entering in 2026 due to the regulations, so there's no more gray areas, so they're more comfortable entering the crypto space. Citi has also reportedly set regarding Alex's perspective from Citi Research, he's an analyst, he said that he's also mentioned that in some reports, though no direct statements from Citi's leadership have surfaced, the lack of official confirmation raises speculative discussions within the crypto community. However, Alex, essentially from Citi Research, has said that essentially he sees Bitcoin reaching those types of points. Now, no primary sources other than essentially Alex's perspective has came out from Citi so far. The prediction addresses potential financial shifts, but lacks the foundation of essentially his institutional statements because it is just his perspective. Now, possible outcomes also involve speculative trading and heightened attention to Bitcoin, and further verifications also occur. So, it's not just essentially that Galaxy Digital is predicting where Bitcoin is going to be ending up, where the stablecoin market space is going to be ending up. Citi has, well, one person from Citi, also head of research, also has the same perspective. Now, moving on from that, but going to the next news, which is regarding a loaning payment system, which a lot of people should be familiar with, which is Klarna. And Klarna has just partnered with Coinbase to add USDC capital from institutional investors. Before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there. And then we talk about the newest partnership Coinbase has just got today. So let's see where we're at. We were here. I'm not a Trump fan. I gave him credit for forcing the NADs of those copies and making them do something that helps the American citizens. I give credit when it's due here. Let's go, Scott. Hello, Tony. Good to see how you're doing. I like this view and background better than the other, more natural. Let's go, Mickey. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Ray, good to see you. How you're doing? I'm not a Trump fan, but you give me credit where credit is due. Let's go. Like the live show and repost it. Let's go, Kelly. Honestly, thank you so much to everybody who smashed the like buttons and the retweet buttons. Let's see where we're at. I have stock in Pfizer and glad to see something done to help the less fortunate in the United States. I may ultimately hurt my bottom financially, but morally, I feel okay about it. Fair enough, Scott. XRP, XLM, XDC, HBOT. Let's go, Scott. All of them brilliant projects, honestly. Miles is hot, still good project. I can't find new information on anything it's doing. There's no new information about it whatsoever, but it's a project that it could suddenly go to where it previously was. It is still a legitimate project as well, but no major news about it. You're correct. Now, Klarna has announced it will allow USDC essentially deposits made possible through Coinbase partnership. The payment essentially and loan platform reaches out to large scale holders of stablecoins aiming to add their liquidity to its portfolio. So Klarna and essentially Circle and USDC playing the middleman role. Essentially, this was the tweet that came out. Breaking crypto news. Essentially, Klarna is adding USDC dominated funding via Coinbase, tapping into a brand new pool of institutional investors, a major step towards a more diversified, digitally powered funding model. The announcement essentially arrives just weeks after Klarna shared plans to launch its own USD-backed stablecoin. However, USDC usage may arrive first using existing infrastructure of Coinbase's custody. USDC is one of the fastest growing stablecoins in 2025, expanding its supply from 42 billion to over 78 billion tokens in the last 12 months. Klarna has also been keeping essentially distance from crypto while building its own presence and brand for retail loans and the market for installment payments as well. This time, Klarna did not turn to crypto retailers, instead aiming to draw essentially in the large-scale holders of stablecoins. Klarna's business model also centers around offering zero interest loans in buy now, pay later (BNPL) offers for consumer products. In 2025, stablecoin holders were also seeking various sources of yield, putting their assets in DeFi vaults with differentiating essentially levels of risk. Klarna may offer much more lower risk for USDC holders. The essentially available pool of stablecoins may become a part of Klarna's usage pool of capital, essentially available capital. So if you're somebody that's looking essentially for a place to store your stablecoins to earn something on top of them, well, Klarna is a genuine company. So that's the safety aspect of companies like this entering the crypto space. Stablecoins essentially connect us to the entirely new class of institutional investors, said Nicholas, the CFO, essentially in a statement from Klarna. USDC essentially deposits are as close as possible to direct fiat liquidity, as the stablecoin is fully regulated by the US markets, and Klarna and many other fintech apps for now avoid crypto categorized essentially stablecoins. Coinbase also holds assets on behalf of third-party companies, though through Coinbase custody, as of December 2025, the platform carries around $50 million in USDC. The USDC stablecoin is widely distributed and not essentially concentrated in top addresses. So, One of the biggest platforms, Klarna, essentially entering the crypto space and looking into the idea of offering some sort of yield services on stablecoins. So if you're somebody that wants to earn something on their stablecoins, maybe look into Klarna. I mean, they are a genuine company, which means there's a low chance of them running away with your stablecoins. Not financial advice whatsoever, but it's better than the DeFi space in some cases, because you don't know about these platforms. They're not backed by any sort of foundation or company, and they can one day run off with your money. But companies like Klarna, at best, they could go bankrupt. Now, which is still the same scenario, but is a lower chance than the other one. Now, moving on from that to the CFTC. Michael Sling has just been confirmed as the CFTC chairman by the US Senate. This is great news for the crypto space, honestly. Michael Sling was confirmed by the US Senate as the CFTC 15th chairman on December essentially 18th, 2025, succeeding Caroline Pham. Singh's essentially appointment could reshape cryptocurrency regulations, advocating for principles-based oversight and promoting clarity, potentially impacting the broader digital commodities market space. This is great, because we needed to move on from the acting chairman of the CFTC, even though she did a great job as being the acting essentially CFTC chairman for the crypto space. But we needed to have a current essentially chairman, not just an acting one. The same way for the longest time in the SEC, where the acting chairman, who also did a great job, but obviously having a current chairman is much more better. Sling's appointment could also reshape regarding these matters. Michael has been unanimously essentially confirmed by the US Senate as the 15th chairman of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC. Sling succeeds Caroline Pham, has essentially a background as chief counsel to the SEC Cryptocurrency Task Force as well. His confirmation suggests regulatory changes are likely for the cryptocurrency markets, especially with his emphasis on principle-based regulations and potential oversight expansions on the essentially Clarity Act. The guy is, loves the idea of cryptocurrencies, which is the simplest way to put it, which works out brilliantly for us. Market experts also anticipate that Michael's leadership could have meaningful effects on the cryptocurrency industry, potentially increasing consumer protection and regulatory clarity. These are all brilliant going to 2026, because 2026 is all about regulations, institutions, and high-profile clients and utility. The CFTC might also gain authority over spot digital commodities, potentially expanding its role significantly. Financial implications are expected, giving Michael's essentially reluctant to promise additional staffing at the CFTC. His approach emphasizes on minimal regulation, which is what we love to hear inside the crypto space. It's the best thing to hear. Minimal essential regulation, so they don't restrict us too much. Aiming for an environment that supports innovation while also ensuring consumer safeguards, which is the best thing. Letting innovation grow, but also safeguarding it on the sidelines. I'm in favor of minimum, essentially effective dose of regulations, no more and no less, said Michael, the chairman of the Commodities Future Trading Commission, CFTC. Craig, the CEO of essentially the CBO Global Markets, remarked Michael's balanced regulatory essentially approach as essential for evolving derivative markets, especially. Historical precedents highlight the CFTC's growing role in digital prediction markets, a trend that may also continue now under Michael. Insights reveal that Michael's pro-innovation stance could remove barriers in the crypto market space, fostering technological advances, regulatory changes, and might enable greater oversight of the DeFi and spot trading essentially space, aligning with Michael's market structure and support. On behalf of the CBO, we congratulate Michael on his confirmation as the chairman of the CFTC. He brings deep experience across financial markets and throughout full balanced approach to regulation that will be essential as the derivative markets continue to evolve at a rapid pace. That is amazing news essentially coming from the CFTC going into 2026, all about regulations and utility. Now, moving on from the chosen CFTC chairman to Moscow, Russia. Moscow has just approved a budget payment that can be made with the digital ruble. So, Russia has just approved the budget. The executive power in Russia is ready to begin making budget payments in digital ruble as early as this year, the finance ministry announced. Russia wants to apparently fast forward entering the crypto space, the easiest way to put it. The full-scale launch of the state-issued coin is slated to begin in the second half of the next year, but the authorities in Moscow intend to start using it sooner. Russia was supposed to essentially get involved in terms of CBDCs and the crypto space much more earlier on. And I'm not saying they're not completely involved at all, because they are on the sidelines due to the sanctions. In terms of regulations, they were supposed to be coming essentially the second quarter essentially of 2026, or the second half of 2026. By the looks of it, people want regulations, well, high profile people want regulations in the crypto sector in terms of CBDCs in Russia starting in the first quarter of 2026. They cannot wait for mid 2026. The cabinet, essentially the cabinet of ministers in Moscow, has essentially adapted a list of expenditures that can be covered using the Bank of Russia's central bank digital currency CBDC. Budget payments with the new essentially of the national fiat can now commence by the end of the year, and the RIA, Novosti essentially news agency from Russia, reported it today. Items on the list include social security transfers, salaries, and other payments in the public sector, as well as funding for capital construction, repair, and maintenance of state-owned facilities. CBDCs in Russia are apparently going to be launching this month. The digital ruble is going to be launching this month because they can't wait any more longer. The report quoted a notice essentially published on the website of the Ministry of Finance of Russia. This is what it had to say. The Russian government has approved a list of budget expenditures for which the digital ruble may be used as early as 2025, essentially as early as 2026, ending essentially 2025. The department remarked that such payments will be made exclusively at the request of their representative. Now, only the citizens themselves can open a digital ruble account, said the statement. The list has also been drafted in accordance with the law of ombudsmen to the budget code of the Russian Federation, which essentially entered into the force earlier this year as well. It provides the legal basis for the essential execution of the federal budget using a digital ruble account of the Federal Treasury. Explains essentially on the article. The Treasury of the Russian Federation is an executive body overseeing the spending of the budget money by different administrations of the government's allocated funds. It was also established after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, initially as a structure within the Russian Finance Ministry and later transformed into a separate agency as well. At the end of November, the Treasury announced its official starting to accept revenues and CBDCs from January 1st. From January 1st, essentially, Russia is going to be essentially accepting CBDCs. They are heavily moving rapidly fast into that sector. This year, the first payments in digital rubles were also made. Its head of Roman essentially reminded during a meeting with the Prime Minister also. The Ministry of Finance emphasizes working closely with the Central Bank of Russia, the CBR, on the integration of digital rubles into the budget process. It also confirmed that institutions and other organizations will be able to use the CBDC to transfer funds to and from various budgets from the beginning of next year. The digital ruble, which is the third of the national currencies after cash and electronic bank money, has been under development for quite a few years. A pilot project which is expanding now and was launched in 2023. Following a call from President Vladimir Putin earlier this year for mass adoption of the Soviet coin, the CBR published a schedule for its gradual introduction for the public use, and also this will be done in several stages, with the first one set to begin on September 1st, 2026. But now the deadline is moved to around January. In late November, also, the Monetary Authority unveiled that transfers between individual wallets will be free of charge, while payments to businesses will carry the lowest fees of the market, 0.3% for commercial transactions and 0.2% for payments covering housing and utility bills. The Russian digital currency will also be integrated in existing banking apps, the regulator announced in December. This aims to essentially keep transaction costs low, as developing a dedicated application would be more expensive. This could be something similar that other essentially jurisdictions around the world start using. I mean, the EU could follow the same footprint that Russia's leaving behind, in terms of, instead of creating a CBDC, essentially one use platform through the central bank, they could just distribute the CBDC through current banks that people may have. But that's just essentially, we have to see if which jurisdiction is going to go that way, or they're just going to be creating a government's app. Now, moving off essentially from Russia in terms of their CBDC footprint or crypto regulations, it seems like they want to move at a much more faster rate going to 2026. Good news for us. To Poland. So, moving off Russia to Poland. Poland's parliament has essentially passed a crypto bill after their presidential essentially veto scenario. Before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we'll go straight into the next news. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. We were at here with XRP already in play. Okay, no, we're here. Yes, I like the background also. Let's go, Mike. Miles, DeFi spaces are not too safe, correct? depends which DeFi, to be honest. So Clarity Act passes before February 1st, 2026 is what it's looking like. Yes, first quarter, but January is where the talk is at. With XRP being already in place with many NDAs, the passing of the Clarity Act will cause massive moves in the crypto markets, correct? Should do, yes, but there are also two outcomes. I said these two outcomes can happen when the Clarity Act passes. One, the Clarity Act passes, this is the first outcome. Essentially, not much happens. The Clarity Act passes, and it's just 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of downtrend. And everybody's expecting the market to pick up, and it just doesn't. And the Clarity Act should help utility. That's what its purpose is for. It brings clarity towards the crypto space in general, and it should help the markets to pick up. But the markets might not just pick up because everybody's expecting the markets to pick up. Everybody put long positions, the houses are going to pay out, and manipulation will still be there. Manipulation will never go away, but it will slow down once we kick into gear in terms of utility. So that's outcome number one. Clarity Act passes, not much happens for a few weeks, and then you see the market bounce back and start going on an uptrend. Outcome number one and outcome number two both have the same ending. It's just how they get there. Outcome number two, we'll just see essentially, not rapid movements, but on an uptrend, a little bit downtrend, uptrend, a little bit downtrend, uptrend, a little bit downtrend, and just going on the higher essentially trend. Now, also, crypto projects that actually have utility will at one point will continue to go up. They might follow the rest of the crowd and go a little bit down, but at one point they will continue to go up due to having utility purposes. Crypto projects that promise utility but don't actually bring anything towards the table will start climbing downwards. At a certain point, they'll reach some sort of a glass ceiling, and then they can't go past the ceiling and will have to drop back down. But crypto projects that do have utility will be able to pass through the glass ceiling and continue going forward, the best way to put it. Now, that's the two outcomes straight after a Clarity Act. Both have the same ending, it's just how they get there. Let's see what else. The more I read, essentially, Miles, is it correct that the ISA value of the XRP higher than we know due to it's already being used by some institutions? If so, when we will find out what it is. Okay, regarding XRP's price, regarding the idea, this is what your question is, Scott, regarding what you're hearing online. There's no two price points for XRP. There's only one price of XRP. XRP can operate essentially on a private chain or public chain or any other chain it wants to, but it always will carry one price point. Otherwise, people could buy it from one chain that is selling XRP at a cheap price and then sell it through arbitrary to another, which in some jurisdictions is also illegal to do so. So XRP is one coin, one token, one price, no matter what chain it's operating on. The more I read and research causes me to believe I would be making a huge mistake to sell or get rid of my XRP. Not that I was thinking about it anyway, just thinking out loud. Fair enough, Scott. I agree though. Selling XRP would be the biggest regret anybody can make in their lifetimes. Going against XRP, never buying it at all because you're too much of a Bitcoin maxi or an Ethereum maxi or a Chainlink maxi is just stupid to say that. Let's be fairly honest, people should be thinking about money, not picking football teams inside the crypto space. So I do agree, selling XRP would be a biggest regret of anyone's lifetime, and essentially not getting involved in XRP because of what somebody has to say or said, or because of that. Now, Swift will have to make some changes or be swept up. I agree. Is XRP okay? Let's go, Miles. Let's go. Is low price? Why no? For one, we're on a low price. Is correct. Yes. Is XRP joining Swift? Is XRP joining Swift? It can if it wants to. The only way XRP essentially leaves, if the only way XRP essentially joins Swift is if Swift gives up on the whole idea of we can survive by ourselves and go head to head inside the tech sector. But I'll be very honest. In the long run, the XRP ledger doesn't really need Swift because it has all the bankings, it has the regulations, it's getting its Fed master account or a skinny account, it has a bank chart or green light license. So in a sense, it's acquiring companies to expand its footsteps and expand the XRP ledger. In a sense, doesn't really need Swift. If Swift wants to join the XRP ledger, why not? I'll be honest. A lot of people think Swift is too big to fail, but a lot of people don't understand is Swift is technically a political company. On paper, it's a messaging standard. In reality, it's a political company. Swift is the reason why a lot of countries are sanctioned from using their payment systems. Going in a digital world, I don't think countries want to end up using still Swift. I'll give you an example. China has their own payment platform due to one day being blocked completely from Swift. For example, Russia sanctioned by Swift. A lot of countries sanctioned by Swift, and it carries that linger of it can be used as a political tool. Nobody could go around and sanction countries on the XRP ledger, to put it best. Now, Swift is an icon too. I agree. Swift will have to make some changes or be swept up. I agree, 100%. Thank you for clarifying that, Miles. No problem, Stormy. Anytime. Good evening, Professor Miles. Good to see you as well, Funky. How you doing? Wow, new look. Yep. I'm at my business partner's essentially house since yesterday. I slept around 5 a.m. Woke up, worked until 5 a.m. Slept around 5 a.m. Woke up, worked more, and then I didn't want to miss the live show, so we're doing the live show, and then after the live show, more work to do towards the morning. What's with the changes? That's why. The new look, Miles, is the contract. No. I'm sorry I'm late, but I will catch up. No problem, Funky. Swift would be crazy not to join XRP or Ripple. Swift needs XRP. I agree. The more Swift thinks that it doesn't need XRP, the more it actually needs XRP to survive. They'll realize that in the long run. XRP will be valuable more than now, in or after 2023. You'll see. We're in 2020. We're going to 2026. You mean 2030? Is that what you're trying to say? Now, Poland. So moving on from Russia in terms of how fast they want to get involved inside the crypto sector with CBDCs, especially, let's talk about Poland. Poland's parliament has just passed a crypto bill after the presidential essentially veto scenario. Poland's lower house just passed a cryptocurrency legislation despite the president essentially earlier vetoing the scenario. The vote essentially sends unchanged bill to the Senate for review. Lawmakers approved the measure 241 to 283 after reintroducing essentially it without modifications. The Crypto Assets Market Act aims to align Poland with the EU in terms of their regulations, and states face a July 2026 essentially compliance deadline, which Poland has agreed to. The president of Poland, essentially, who vetoed the same legislation early December, stating it would genuinely threaten the freedoms of Poles, their property, and the stability of their state. The parliament attempted to override the veto and fell 18 votes, essentially short of the essentially required 3/5 majority. The government then resubmitted the bill without changes last week, and a government spokesperson reportedly said it is likely to sign the legislation this time following a classified security briefing and a national security implementation. The bill also grants the Polish Financial Supervision Authority broad powers over cryptocurrency operations, and critics, including the industry advocates, say that the legislation imposes restrictions beyond the EU baseline and requirements. Poland also remains the only essentially EU member state without MiCA essentially implementation, as neighbors including Germany, Malta, and the Netherlands and Lithuania essentially have begun issuing licensing. The regulatory standoff has created political tensions between the president and the nationalist supporters and the prime minister, essentially Donald Tusk, pro-EU coalition. He also campaigned on the crypto-friendly positions before winning the June 2025 presidential elections with a 50.89% of the votes. He assumed in office in August, and in May, a social media post he granted no oppressive laws would be implemented in the digital asset industry, stating Poland needs innovation, not regulation, which is the best way to put it, honestly, from any presidential leader, that every country needs innovation inside the crypto sector, not regulation technically. We need regulations, just not restrictive regulations, so innovation can grow. Poland's cryptocurrency market has grown despite regulatory uncertainties, and Chainalysis ranked the country 8th in Europe for total cryptocurrency values received between July 2024 and June 2025. An estimated 7.9 Poles use cryptocurrencies according to this data. So Poland isn't small inside the crypto sector. They're ranked 8th right now in the EU by Chainalysis in terms of how much they bring towards the table. Now, the UK is what we're going to talk about next, moving off Russia and Poland to the UK. Before we talk about the UK, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then straight into the British news in terms of the crypto sector. Let's see where we're at. Sorry, 2030 yet. Let's go, Miles. Let's go, Scott. The best family online, the CMF. Let's go, Scott. Yes, I agree that XRP will be valuable for the years to come. Yeah, facts. Shelley said, I thought Swift are doing their own blockchain based on Ledger with 30 plus banks. How will this play out? Good question, Shelley, regarding the advert Swift released today on X. So Swift on X released an advert today regarding their own blockchain, their own ledger, and 30 plus banks. Now, there is a document essentially that was released a while ago that the XRP ledger can actually be integrated into Swift's payment rails. So Swift can, if they wanted to, adopt essentially XRP ledger or essentially Ripple's payment networks. If they wanted to, they can. It's actually very easy for them to do so. So yes, they do have their own blockchain. Yes, they are competing for the time being. However, if they wanted to, it's actually not that difficult for them to be implemented the XRP ledger because of that one document that was released a while ago, which I'll put it inside the Telegram group when I find it on X again. Now, but good question, because a lot of people might want to know regarding Swift of going on their own or choosing XRP Ledger. They can if they want to. And as I said, regarding that matter, Ripple doesn't really need Swift, to be fairly honest. Swift's a political tool. XRP Ledger isn't on that basis. XRP, but good question. XRP is here to stay. It has built a solid foundation and it's going nowhere. Facts. It's definitely here to stay and it's definitely not going to go anywhere. And it is going to keep on growing, and its foundation is getting stronger as it continues forward. XRP is here to stay. Was built for solid foundation. Facts. Did JP Morgan choose Ethereum? If so, does that change anything in the game for Ripple? Good question as well. Regarding essentially JP Morgan, the question as Stormy has just asked regarding JP Morgan chose Ethereum a long time ago, mainly during the whole Ripple essentially case with the SEC. Ripple is a massive threat to major banks, because it was going to change, and it is continuing to change, how the financial sector operates. Ripple saw that in some cases that the banks weaponized the SEC against them and forced Ripple outside the US, which they thought, would slow down Ripple's progress. In fact, Ripple sped their progress up by acquiring as many licenses as they can and going international. And once the Ripple case ended, they came back to the US, expanded in the US, applied for a bank charter license and a Fed master account. Because Ripple realized that some of these banks don't want to let go of their golden positions. And instead, Ripple has to go head to head with them. So why join a bank when you can become a bank? So on the question basis of, did JP Morgan choose Ethereum a long time ago? They did. And on the basis of, does that change anything in the game for Ripple? Nope, nothing at all has changed. In fact, regarding the banking associations that were again weaponized by the banking sector in most cases, who went to the OCC and sent them a letter and told them to slow down their progress on trying to approve Ripple and Circle in terms of tech companies entering the banking sector, the OCC replied with back, I don't care. We care about innovation going forward, not restriction, which is hence why Ripple got a green light for their bank charter license moving forward, essentially. Now, but the question, patience a little longer will pay off big time. Facts. Or is it just for tokenization? Regarding Swift, most cases they will get involved in tokenization if they already haven't. But regarding the advert that was released today, I'm not sure if it was for tokenization, but I do know it was regarding 30 essential establishments coming together. Yes, it's 100% possible regarding essentially Ripple and Swift. It is possible, yes. Guys, let's like and retweet the live. Let's go funky for saying that, brother. All roads lead to Ripple. Facts, Davey. Absolutely facts. Now, the UK, Russia is moving rapidly towards the crypto sector. Poland moving rapidly towards the crypto sector. The UK, well, the UK is a special place. The UK must move faster on Web3 and everything else inside the crypto sector in terms of regulations or lose global talent, said Lord Holmes. So, the United Kingdom risk losing the Web3 and gaming talent to overseas jurisdictions unless it delivers a clearer and more enabling regulatory framework, according to a senior British lawmaker who warned that regulatory inherit could undermine the country's ambitions to become a global technology hub. Speaking at the House of Lords Roundtable on Decentralised Digital Economies and UK Growth, Lord Chris Holmes said the government must move faster to establish the right regulatory landscape to ensure Web3 innovators choose to build in the UK, particularly in the gaming sectors, which he described as major growth opportunities for the economy. He further said the country was operating in a globally competitive environment. Facts. The EU is moving rapidly in terms of crypto regulations. So is Singapore, so is Hong Kong, so is Japan, so is Australia, so is the US, so is essentially Canada, so is Latin American countries, Middle Eastern countries, African countries. The only country that's moving still at a snail's pace is still the UK. He also added, saying that the UK is in a great position because we have a strong technology ecosystem, not just in London, but in the four nations of the UK. We have great creators and great potential, just not enough innovation and regulations that not restrict the innovation but bring everyone towards the table. Lord Holmes also pointed to the gaming sector and the digital sector as a key pillar for future economic growth, arguing that Web3 enabled gaming could also support job creation, skill developments, and broader participation in the digital economy. It's not that he's just focused on Web3 essentially on the financial sector. Every sector inside the digital sector, this man is talking about, the UK is falling behind on. We have a huge opportunity with the crypto sector, with the gaming sector, to make sure an expanding part of our economy, essentially, he said. He also said it's such an era of growth. People can be empowered, can learn, or essentially engaged, can be a part of numerous companies. They can drive economic benefits and earn while also playing. However, he also warned that failure to act would have direct, essentially, economic consequences. And the flip side is if we don't get involved, people disappear, and a huge part of the economy is left behind. Lord Holmes also said that the essentially losing ground to essentially, Lord Holmes also said that the Commons come to the United Kingdom prepares to finalize the draft regulatory framework for crypto assets by early next year. At the same time, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, who is a absolute weasel, has reportedly outlined plans to make the UK an AI and technology superpower after that Trump essentially visit, positioning the digital sector at the center of the government's economic growth strategy. Since Keir Starmer made that speech, that entire speech about the UK becoming a crypto hub and an AI hub, not much has happened. I'm not surprised, to be honest, regarding Keir Starmer. He says a lot of stuff, doesn't do anything. Lord Holmes said his ambitions essentially must be backed by legislation that enables innovation rather than slowing it down. We have a government which talks essentially increasingly about everything economic growth and is right to do that. That's essentially, but if you're going to talk about that, you need to put legislations in place which is enabling and empowering that growth agenda. Facts. If you're talking about the crypto space, if you're talking about AI, if you want London to become the hub of the financial sector in the digital sector, then do something about it, Keir Starmer. Don't just make speeches about it. He rejected the idea that regulations, essentially, and innovation are mutually exclusive. We need to smash the myth that you can either have innovation or regulation, but can't have both. That's complete nonsense, said Lord Holmes. The right-sized regulation is good for all of us, well thought through principles based on regulations, which does exactly what it says it should do, and no more essentially in that answer. Lord Holmes also said that the right approach, the UK could scale entire digital ecosystems rather than losing ground to international essentially competitors. We could be expanding our whole ecosystem. It's a globally competitive environment, he said. Lord Holmes also essentially a nine-time Paralympic essentially gold medalist, has served in the House of Lords for 12 years and has been closely involved in the digital policy, including work on fintechs, financial inclusions, and technology-related legislations. So, every country is moving at a rapid pace and wants to get more involved inside the crypto sector. The UK is still moving at snail's pace. I mean, the current government we have are, well, to put it best, they're completely useless. Now, moving on essentially from the UK to AVAX and VanEck. If you are somebody that's a huge fan of AVAX, well, VanEck is getting close to introducing something interesting. VanEck updates its AVAX ETF ahead of potential launch. Rather than forming its own proposed AVX, essentially AVAX fund, as a basic spot vehicle, the asset manager is shaping it to be a more complex instrument designed to essentially compete on structure, not just exposure. And recent essential disclosures tied to the product suggest VanEck is positioning itself for what altcoin ETFs it could look like if regulators give the green light. VanEck is thinking about introducing more ETFs inside the crypto sector, and the next one they're thinking about introducing is AVAX. VanEck is positioning its proposed AVAX ETF as more than a simple price tracking essentially product. The fund is designed to combine low fees or essentially staking based yield to stand out from the rivals, and the structure hints at how future altcoin ETFs may evolve if regulators approve them. If you're somebody that's a big fan of essentially AVAX, and AVAX to me, I've said before, it's a great project. If you're thinking about if you're somebody that's holding AVAX, this is great news regarding VanEck thinking about introducing an ETF for it. Now, moving off VanEck and AVAX essentially to banks. Before we talk about US banks, bank stablecoins get a rule book regarding essentially what they can do, what they can't do. Something that we discussed on that particular day that we were having technical issues with the live show regarding the noise scenario. But here's a little update as just what's come out today. Washington is inching closer to putting banks issued stablecoins on a clearer regulatory track. This week, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp, the FDIC, the U.S. agency that oversees bank safety and insurance deposits, laid out a proposed framework for how insured banks via subsidiaries could seek approval to issue payment stablecoins under the Genius Act, a move that could reshape who gets to mint digital dollars and under what essentially rules. That same push towards institutionalization is also evident elsewhere inside the crypto business landscape. Despite Bitcoin's BTC essentially lackluster performance so far, corporate treasuries are still in accumulation mode, with American Bitcoin vaulting essentially past pro cap essentially in the race to stack BTC. On Wall Street, doorstep essentially Anchorage Digital is tightening its grip on the advisor channels by acquiring securities ROI platform, bringing custody and advisory tools under one roof. So far, essentially, one, the FDIC essentially is inching closer to letting banks essentially be utilizing stablecoins or issuing stablecoins. Two, the performance that Bitcoin has done so far has been absolutely horrendous. However, there seems to be that reversal happening inside the market space, especially going 2026. Three, Wall Street essentially is inching closer also inside the crypto space as well, with the Anchorage Digital essentially grip it's having right now. Four, on the sovereign end of the spectrum, Bhutan says that it will tap a portion of its sizable Bitcoin holdings to help finance essentially mindfulness cities and ambitious essentially to bid to build a new economic hub without compromising long-term capital preservations. Bhutan might be creating some sort of a Bitcoin city going to 2026. Five, this week's capital this week's capital biz dives into regulatory, corporate, and economic developments shaping the global the crypto industry sector. The FDIC is also moving forward with proposed rulemaking in the wake of the landmark of the Genius Act, signaling that the agency is preparing to offer clear guidance to banking institutions seeking to issue essentially payment stablecoins. In a 38-page document published on the FDIC website, the agency outlined essential proposed approval requirements governing how bank subsidiaries could issue essentially payment stablecoins in accordance with the Genius Act, and the proposal is subject to the public consultation process before any rules are finalized under essentially the Under the proposed framework, financial institutions would be required to apply to issue a stablecoin through subsidiaries, with the FDIC essentially evaluating both the parent company and the issuing entity. Applicants would also need to comply with Genius Act's provisions related to issuance standards and reserve banking and redemption policies. So those are all the things pretty much that are happened so far and going to be happening in 2026. Regarding the FDIC inching closer to letting banks essentially use and issue stablecoins. Regarding essentially the Genius Act is pretty much the one that's pushing this scenario forward. Also regarding the Genius Act, Ripple's CEO and Coinbase's CEO came together and said that banks shouldn't be looking into a way to remove yields from stablecoins. Also regarding that matter, regarding essentially the Wall Street inching closer, the same as the Washington inching closer towards the crypto sector. Ironically, both at the same time going to 2026, all about institutions and utility and regulations. Now, The next news we're going to be covering on tonight's live is regarding Ripple and Circle. Ripple and Circle could gain a Fed access on board and seeks feedback on skinny master accounts. So, as you may be aware, the Fed introduced a while back ago regarding a skinny master account, essentially, which is not a full, essentially, Fed master account, but a skinny master account is what tech companies can pretty much have going forward until they're given the access of a full access. The US Federal Reserve has requested public feedback on the payment accounts, also known as the skinny master accounts, which the Fed Governor Chris Waller proposed early this year. This marks a positive for crypto firms such as Ripple and Circle, which could gain direct, although limited, Fed access as they advance in terms of payment innovations. In a press release today, the Federal Reserve Board requested public input on a payment account that enables eligible financial institutions such as Ripple and Circle to use it for limited purposes of clearing and settling payments. They've got to a stage where they're now asking for public feedback on Ripple and Circle in terms of Fed accounts. The US Central Bank noted that in recent years, rapid developments in the payments industry have led to innovative approaches to banking and financial institutions, with new business models seeking access to the Fed's payment systems. The Fed's request for information comes just months after the Fed Governor Chris Waller first flaunted the idea of these payment accounts, likening them to skinny master accounts. The Federal Reserve stated that this payment account would be tailored to meet the limited needs of eligible financial institutions seeking payments and settling services as they look to support innovation and promote a safe and efficient payment system. The US Central Bank added that this tailoring could also reduce risk to the payment system, and as a result, requests for payment accounts could generally receive a streamlined review. It is also worth noting that Ripple had earlier this year applied for a Fed Master account. At the same time, they applied for a national bank charter essentially license. However, the Fed has yet to grant this request regarding the Fed account. The Federal Reserve explained that a payment account would be a distant from a master account, which is what the financial institutions currently use to process payment services from the Fed, in other words, the banks. The payment account would not pay interest, would not have to access the Fed credit, and would be subject to balance caps that's separated from the master account. Additionally, the Fed also stated that a payment account would not expend or otherwise change legal eligibility for access to its payment service. Meanwhile, commenting on this move, Fed Governor also essentially Chris Waller remarked that this new payment accounts would support innovation while keeping the payment system safe. This request for information is a key first step, essentially, to ensuring that the Fed is responsive to evolutions in how payments are made, he added. Pro-crypto Senator Cynthia Luminous also released a statement praising this initiative. She stated that the skinny master accounts will enable responsible innovation and make payments faster, cheaper, and safer. And regarding that, the senator also mentioned that this is a big step towards making things right after 20 years of Operation Choke Point 2.0. Mostly on Ripple. The Federal Reserve noted that the comment period for the proposed payment accounts will close 45 days after publication in the Federal Register. So, 45 days time limit regarding a public feedback on the idea of Ripple and Circle having a skinny Fed master account. I think it's brilliant news, honestly, or an actual Fed account. I think it's brilliant news, to be fairly honest, regarding Chris Waller introducing this. Some people are framing this as bad news regarding Chris Waller, who first introduced this idea of a skinny master account, and they said it's restrictive and so on. But if you think about it, it gives them a doorway in to prove themselves, and then the best man will win. Essentially, the best project will win in that sense. So, on that note, that's essentially with everything that's happening around the world. The number one thing we're still looking forward to is regulations. The markets did seem to look like they're on a reversal trend. That doesn't mean that we can't expect to go a little bit more further down. The Japanese news so far hasn't impacted the crypto market space, so it went straight to outcome number 2, which is the house essentially winning. Everybody getting essentially liquidated, who shorted the market space today. And everything else that we talked about tonight's live regarding essentially Russia fast forwarding essentially their crypto regulations going to 2026, Poland essentially going against their own president and vetoing him essentially and able to pass a crypto legislations, and the EU essentially being able to move forward and having Poland a part of that, and our ranking essentially 8th, and the UK, as usual, moving at snail's pace. Everything else is brilliant inside the crypto space. I hope every single one of you have an amazing weekend. We have come to the endings of tonight's live show. And this was episode 421 of the CMF Live Show that everyone tuned in today. This was CMF Live Show, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. The disclaimer of this website, as always, is no financial advice, no political advice. Whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. I will see everybody on Monday, same time as usual, 10 p.m. London time onwards. We have reached the endings of tonight's live. I am extremely exhausted, to be fairly honest, but I still wanted to do the live show, which because we missed out on too many of them, to be honest. So those are the news topics today regarding essentially what we went through. We talked about the dynamics of the pharmaceutical sector and the crypto sector today. We talked about the December US inflations. We also went through regarding Galaxy Digital's predictions inside the market space in terms of stablecoins. We talked about Citibank's perspective on essentially Bitcoin. We talked about Klarna essentially joining Coinbase on tonight's live. We also went through news regarding the CFTC new chairman. We talked about on tonight's live also regarding Moscow fast forwarding their crypto regulations and their CBDC regulations for the first quarter, essentially for the first half of essentially 2026. We talked about Poland essentially passing their crypto regulations going against their own president. We talked about the UK, a law from the UK coming out and suggesting that the UK should be moving faster in terms of regulations. We talked about VanEck and AVAX in terms of the next ETF coming out. We talked about essentially a bank rulebook that was introduced by the FDIC for banks to get more involved in the crypto sector. And we talked about Ripple and Circle and Fed skinny master accounts. So on that note, we have reached the next tonight's live. This was episode 421. Before we do go, obviously, let's go to the comment section first. That's what's happening there. And then we essentially call it a night. Let's see where we're at. We were at Ripple stablecoin is the way to go for me. I can only speak for myself. Thinking out loud. Let's go, Scott. I think XLM XDC are sleepers. How do you feel about these two coins? XLM XDC, great coins. Oh, do not forget about HBOT, also great. I've still been dollar cost averaging that coin too. Let's go, Scott. Happy Pisces. Good to see you. How you doing? Thanks, Miles. Great live. Have a wonderful weekend and see you next week. You too, Autistic. Have a wonderful weekend as well. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. See everyone on Monday. See everyone on Monday. See you on Monday, JP, brother. Thank you so much, Miles. Let's go, Stormy. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Jane, let's go. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Good night, everyone. Let's go, Stormy. Night, Miles. Davey, see you on Monday, same time as usual. Good night, Miles, and great live. Many thanks. See you on Monday. Let's go, Ian. Same time as usual. An outstanding job, Miles. Thanks for everything. Love you for what you do and for what you do for them, and get some rest and just appreciate you. Thank you so much, Scott, for the kind words. Night, CMF. Let's go, Davey. Great live, Miles. Get some rest. Good night, Miles. And CMF, Jason. Let's go. See you tomorrow sometime. As usual, share the live. Leave a comment. Let's go, Scott. It would be a blessing if XRP would be nice run up starting this weekend. It definitely would be, yes. Get some rest, Miles. Be kind to yourself, brother. Let's go. Ian, see you tomorrow. See you Monday, same time as usual. Thanks for all your hard work and insights, brother Miles. Have a great weekend. Let's go, Comatose. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles. Respect and love, my brother and friend. Let's go, Scott. See you on Monday. Good night, Miles. Get some sleep. Let's go, Funky. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. I will see you, love my CMF members. Let's go, Scott. Let's go, Jay. I will see everybody on Monday, same time as usual, for episode 422 of the CMF Live Show. Love you all. I hope all of you have an amazing weekend. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Disclaimer, no financial advice, no political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Same on Monday, same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Let's go, Carlos. XLP, let's go.